G'day folks, Oliver Jeshope here from the North Queensland Freedom Network. Today we're going to be having a bit of a chat with David Schefe. Is that how I pronounce it correctly, David?
That's correct, mate. Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Would you mind telling me a little bit about where you're from maybe and why you've decided to run in this election?
Yeah, so I live at Roma, which is in southwest Queensland. I grew up in a property out here, and since then I've done an apprenticeship, became a builder. I've run my own business for over 30 years here. Married with kids, and I suppose I just wanted to run in this election because we're facing some unprecedented changes, and I'm particularly worried about regional Queensland, where we're going to end up. And the best way I can serve my community and others is in the Senate. And I'm running as an independent, which is a tough gig to start with, because it's the system's set up to keep independents out, really. If you want to vote for independent candidates, you're going to have to go below the line and number 1 to 12. And a lot of people don't bother because they need to make their vote count.
Yeah. Okay. I'm interested to know, I'm keen to chat a bit more about that, but also what are some of the things in particular that made you really want to run for this position in the Senate?
Well, I come from a local government background, so I've spent 12 years in local government, and I represented my region at the state level with the LGAQ on the Resource Council's advisory group and also on the Water and Sewerage Advisory Group. In fact, I chaired the Water and Sewerage Advisory Group for 5 years. So across Queensland councils, I know that we've got, just in water and sewage infrastructure, we've probably got about $1 billion deficit with infrastructure that's going to fail. That's affecting all councils other than the really big councils in that southeast corner. We have put plans to state government to try and address that. They haven't done anything as yet. And we did approach some federal politicians about them actually helping out there, but we fell on deaf ears. So there's a lot of issues right across Queensland that need dealing with. I mean, that they don't really understand at that federal level, and I think we need to get people in there that understand, because they're the people with the purse strings. They've got the most money. Local government goes cap in hand to state go cap in hand to the federal government. So we still need to deal with those issues, as well as the changes that are probably going to come through in relation to climate change, which could pretty much, if they're not handled properly, could pretty much wipe out some of our regional communities.
Okay. That's definitely interesting. I've learned a lot about how some people in government tend to make decisions, although they don't actually have the knowledge and know-how or the expertise really to make those proper decisions. So that's interesting that you're actually bringing your background to politics to actually hopefully get some of these changes made that actually make sense. I'd be interested to know a little bit more about exactly those kinds of changes that you propose need to happen for Queensland. And also, you just mentioned briefly about how that may connect with climate change. What kind of changes were you thinking could occur in Queensland that could actually devastate or just cause us some issues?
Well, Townsville's going to be severely impacted by the issue around coal. Townsville will probably survive because you've got the army there, but I mean, you're going to be a lot smaller than what you are now. The entire Queensland economy rides on coal. So if there is to be a transition away from coal, it's a matter of doing it in a timely manner and making sure that people don't lose their jobs, lose their businesses. I mean,
Mhm.
some people could possibly lose everything that they own. Like if they've invested a lot into a business, into a community that no longer exists, they can't sell it. It's not worth anything. They could lose what they've worked for their entire lives. So that'll have a severe impact on places like Townsville. In my region, we're very heavily involved with CSG, gas extraction. So in our community, if you took CSG out of here, then it'd absolutely smash our community. And on top of that, we've got the issues that are probably coming around, well, cattle in particular, so the rural industry. Are we going to lose all our family farms? If you lose all your family farms, I mean, they're the backbone of most of the rural communities right across Western Queensland.
What are some challenges that you've actually had when conveying those ideas to other people about this transition that everyone generally, well, not everyone, but most people tend to talk about when we talk about climate change and going to alternative sources of energy?
Well, I haven't had too many challenges like within my region, because I mean, people can see the problem that as it's evolving. I think the issue is whether people think logically or whether people think with their emotions. And a lot of people have been trained nowadays to think with their emotions. And we really need to get back to basics and think logically. Let's get all the facts, work our way, find out what all the problems are and work our way through it. I mean, if we wanted to introduce something when I was in local government, we would develop a plan, council would approve it, then we'd go out, we'd consult with the community.
Okay.
And then we'd get that community feedback, make changes, go back out, consult again, get feedback, make changes until you mitigate 98% of the problems before you initiate it by doing that process. But the federal government don't do it. Now, there's a lot of policies being put out there during this election by a lot of different parties, but they're not going to be out there consulting the community to deliver them. They're going to say, oh, we've got a mandate to deliver these if they get elected. So what you need is people in the Senate that can just pull it up and go, hey, hang on a minute, I think that you're going to wipe out 6 or 7 communities in my electorate.
I was surprised to hear you say when you worked in council, you guys would actually go out and do a lot of community consultation before implementing any kinds of projects or changes. That just sounds like a really good way to go about government. I don't know, in my understanding, where you actually consult with the community, but what kinds of things were you putting into effect, and was it challenging to get the community to understand and agree to the things that were being put out?
Oh, definitely. See, local government, it's the coalface of government in Australia, really, because every single day the decisions that you make, you have to justify them to the people in the street, because you see them every single day. I mean, you're very connected to the community. I mean, local government cops a lot of flack, but that's because they deliver most of the services that people use every single day. Whereas state government, they're a little bit more removed from the people they're making the decisions about. And federal government, well, we used to refer to it as Disneyland. They're a long way removed. I mean, they talk about the Canberra bubble. It's the same thing, you know. They're really not connected with the communities they're trying to represent.
Yeah.
So I know we were doing a CBD upgrade, and that was quite a difficult one. And we had consulted heavily with the community. We still had problems as we went through it, but then we engaged with the community during that and tried to mitigate them. So, yeah, it's not perfect, but it's probably the best system that you can do is make sure you engage heavily before you actually start implementing anything.
Yeah. What do you think that transparency would look like on a higher level of government, such as state, and if you can, federal? What would that look like to you? And does that happen? Have you seen that happen in your experience?
Not really. They they tend to use more of a carrot and whip approach. So there's monetary benefits if you do what they want, and if you don't, then there's the big whip. So local government, the whipping boy for both levels of government, really. So I'd like to see that change. I'd like to see a lot more community engagement before they implement new policies or bills. Definitely.
Yeah. Yes, speaking of which, so I haven't actually yet seen all the things that you're about, but do you have like a little like list of your plans for what you would put into effect?
Well, look, there are probably three main things that I'll probably be focusing on is regional development. So there's been a lot of talk over probably the last couple of decades about developing regional Australia. Developing North Queensland, for example, has been big on the agenda, but we really haven't seen much action. And I just want to start to see things happen. So I'm sick of them talking about it and not delivering. So, and I'm quite sure there's a lot of people up your way with the same feelings. So I've got a good friend, he's ex-local government in Cairns, and I mean, I know they're frustrated further north too. So I think there's a lot of things that can be done there. Local business, I'm particularly worried about like your small to medium-sized businesses. I think a lot of those were under a lot of pressure prior to COVID coming along. We've probably been better than down south in Queensland through the COVID crisis, but it's the rising costs that they were facing prior to COVID, like all their compliance costs, all their overheads were going up, but the margins were shrinking. So that puts small business in a very precarious position, moving forward. And then on top of that, we've had COVID. So I think that moving forward, we need to protect those small businesses and try and free up some of the red tape that's just bogging them down.
Yeah.
The third thing is probably the nation buildings, another thing that I'm passionate about. And I think too many of our politicians today are professional politicians that look from election to election. And they don't look 50 to 100 years into the future. Now, we used to have people like that, but we don't seem to have them today. So what we need is to get people in there that have a vision for the future and start getting a pipeline of projects lined up and delivered.
You don't really sound like much of a politician to me, but I'm liking what I'm hearing.
Well, I'm not a professional politician. Let's put it that way, mate.
Yeah, sure.
I've been in and out of local government, a number of times now, and this has been a passion of mine for a long time, and I'm probably just at that time of my life where I can devote my time to it. My kids are grown up now, and I mean, if I get in, then I'll have to basically walk away from my business, which I'm willing to do at this stage in my life.
Yeah.
But I'm old enough now to have enough life skills to be of benefit to people too.
Yeah, that's cool. I was interested to ask because a lot of the things that you mentioned, I've heard other people that are running for a position in this next election talk about as well. If you're elected as a senator, how would that work with you working with other senators to get these things that you want to have done across to other people, so that you can all kind of perhaps work together? Because I'm hearing a lot of the same goals from some people that are also wanting to run. Yeah.
Well, I mean, my experience in local government, everyone was independent. Like 95% of your Queensland councils, all your councillors are independents. They're not politically aligned. It's only the really big city ones that have party politics involved. So I'm used to dealing with other people that have similar ideas, and if you can get enough people up, you'll get across the line. So in the Senate, we can introduce private member bills to the Senate. So there'll probably be some that I'll be introducing there during my term. It's like your independent senators have delivered good outcomes for the Australian population over time. I mean, it was independent senators that blocked the federal government selling the Snowy Mountain scheme. And I mean, the Snowy Mountain scheme, this election has been praised as one of the greatest things that we've ever done, and about all the improvements they're doing to it and all that sort of thing. But if the government of the day had their way in the past, it wouldn't be happening, because it'd be in private hands.
What is the Snowy Mountain scheme?
So the Snowy Hydro scheme.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not too familiar with that, actually, but would you mind explaining a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a series of dams that they set up in the Snowy Mountains. I went to Albury to the New South Wales Water Conference there for LGAQ. I was the Queensland rep for them. And I got to sit on a panel and talk to them, but they took us out and showed us the massive dams that they've got there. And like, that was in the middle of the drought, and they were still running a banker of water leaving that dam. And I think they're at about 30% capacity. And I said to old mate, I said, well, aren't you worried? He said, oh, no, we're not worried. He said, because he said, we've still got another 3 months worth of water here. But he said, there's another dam further upstream, and he said, it's full. He said, when we tap into that, he said, that's when we start to get worried. So that water they were releasing, that was for use by the towns, that was for use by the farms, and part of it was an environmental flow. And he said, without this dam, he said, this river would have been bone dry 2 years ago. So it's delivering a positive outcome, having that dam there for the environment, for the community, and for the people running businesses. On top of that, they generate electricity as they release water, because it's a series of dams, and as they release them, there's electricity generated. At the moment, they're planning on using solar to pump, so a pumped hydro scheme where they pump the water back up and bring it back down to generate electricity, which supplies reliable electricity day and night then. So whereas solar only operates during the day.
Has there been any opposition to that proposal?
It probably is. There's always some opposition, but
yeah,
I think it's certainly very well supported within New South Wales. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Interesting.
But I mean, it's a move towards renewables. I mean, it's a positive one. I mean, the system's already there. They're just upgrading it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of debate about renewable energy and if it really can be renewable. So I was wondering what your thoughts are on things like, wind farms and solar panels and that type of thing, if you think that they are kind of an answer that can really, that we can kind of, use to replace things like coal, not just as an energy source, but also economically to support communities. What are your thoughts?
I question the amount of support to communities. So the ex-mayor of South Burnett was a good friend of mine, and Keith said that if they shut down the Toronto power station there, so looking at shutting the power station and the coal mine, plus the ancillary jobs within the community, said we'll lose 2,000 jobs out of our region. And then they're building a big wind farm which spanned from there right across into Western Downs. He said that's going to create 5 permanent jobs with people maintaining them. Once construction was finished, 5 permanent jobs just maintaining them. So they weren't going to get as many jobs out of that out of that wind farm as what they do now out of the power station and coal mine. So it was a net loss for their community. The wind farms, I would like to see some whole of life costings done on them, because
What was
I
that?
question how, whole of life. So from where they're actually manufactured right
Yeah.
through to their use, and then
Uh-huh.
at the end of life, what's happening to them, because there's a lot of information out there saying a lot of this stuff isn't recyclable. So I think that you need to see a lot more about that with the wind farms, because I just question when you look at the whole of life. And also solar. I mean, we've got a lot of solar farms popping up in our region here, but then when I talk to a lot of people in the industry, they say a lot of the solar panels that are getting installed are not recyclable. So when we were looking at it from a local government perspective, we were particularly worried about whether they'll just end up in landfill at our local tip, because that would be, massive amounts of these solar panels coming in. And I don't think that's the whole intent of the move to renewables, is to have more landfill. So there are solar panels that are recyclable, but that's why you need to have a little bit more data out there, and they need to be working a lot harder on making sure that the whole of life of these things is working.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to replace coal mines with jobs. So once these things are built, the maintenance on them is pretty low. So I don't know where you'd find the replacement. If you shut down all the coal mines, I don't know where you're going to find the replacement jobs, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I've definitely heard a lot of, I suppose I could say, like, opposing opinions to that idea, where particularly with young people talking about how they will often say that they do believe that we can have more jobs at the moment than coal. But, what would you say to people that would say that, or would have that point of view?
Well, they're entitled to their point of view, and I respect their point of view. But I mean, I think that I like to deal with facts. So I want to see the proof. There's no point doing it and then going, holy shit, we've got a problem. These people are out of work, we can't employ them. I want to see the evidence before we do it. So I'm comfortable to go along with change. I've always been one that embraces change, but let's do it in a way that is not going to impact on people's lives. Let's do it in a way that is smart. Let's think with our brains and not with our heart, So that's probably my point of view on it.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, more on that too. We just recently did a video with this lady named Deborah from the Frog Hospital, which led us to do another story up in Tully. And this whole ordeal was covering, or it informed us about the this wind farm development that's being proposed for, I believe it's Chulumban and Caban, and I think there's one other place. And they're wanting to put wind farms all up in this forest area, and they're going to clear land, which is going to affect so many other species, and a lot of particularly endangered species at that. And it's, quite concerning that for the most part, people have been asking for renewable energy, but then they've gone and put it in a place that will be detrimental to the environment, which isn't what most people that are wanting renewable energy want. So it's really interesting. Have you heard about that before? I haven't
heard about that particular project, no, but I think that people are very fixated on solar and wind. There's other sources of renewable energy that I think that we're smart enough in this country to develop other sources. And I mean, geothermal's one, I think that's probably untapped. There's a lot of potential with it. But again, it comes down to developing the technology, and it'd be far less impact on the surface of our planet and far less impact on the environment if we could develop something like that.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on nuclear energy as a renewable source that is not as destructive, perhaps?
Yeah, I've probably got mixed
What's
feelings
your
on
opinion?
nuclear.
Yeah, sure.
France has gone pretty big into it.
Yeah.
I'd need to see the facts about the safety, and there's still an issue around dealing with the waste that it generates. But in saying that, when you look at our future defence strategy with the federal government moving towards nuclear submarines, there was an interesting conversation there with Malcolm Turnbull about it, and he said they went towards the French design because they use low-grade uranium, which you use in a power station, for example. So you could have a power station here to supply the technical expertise to service the submarines in Australia, whereas the American and British submarines use high-grade uranium like they use in a nuclear bomb, and that they don't use that in power stations. So the problem is that if we did buy the subs off them, that they're going to have to be serviced overseas, which I think's, if you're looking at it from a self-defence point of view, I think that would be detrimental, having to take your submarines to another country to get serviced. Yeah. You'd want to be able to service them here if you're in a conflict. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll never be in a conflict, but you need to prepare for that.
Yeah. It's interesting. Just some of the things that you're talking about, it sounds like you were saying about, you'd like to think more with your head rather than your heart. And basically you're just saying, let's not get our emotions involved in making important decisions for the country. It'd be really great to see more of that among politicians in Australia. And I was wondering, why do you think other representatives or would-be representatives don't always have or think in that manner? What do you think kind of prevents that from happening? Does that make sense?
Probably their background. I mean,
because would you think?
I mean, we've had to be fairly adaptable. Like growing up on a farm, you have to adapt very quickly. Otherwise, you very quickly go bankrupt. And you have to work with the elements, the environment around you, and there's a lot of different pressures there. Construction industry is no different, so we have to go in. I've done a lot of stuff that was brand new to me, like, new ideas, new building concepts that I'd never ever done, but then I go in, I research them, I work out how we can deliver it, and then we plan it, and then we deliver the project. So nothing is impossible, is what I believe. Nothing's impossible. So there's only two factors, is time and cost that will change.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think it's a good attitude to have.
I think so. Our meeting, we've only got like a few, like it says 9 more minutes, so I'm wondering if we can squeeze in just a few more questions. I'd like to ask everyone this question: if you were the Prime Minister, what would be some things that you'd like to implement on the grand scale of changing Australia, or rather fixing or bringing new things about?
Well, if we go back to my comment about nation building, where do you see the future of Queensland? Because I know the Labor Prime Minister's the opposition have proposed a high-speed rail link from Melbourne to Brisbane. I think that'll be great for the southern states. I think it'd be great for Melbourne, but there's going to be a winner and a loser out of that, isn't there? Generally, the winner's going to be the one with the largest population mass, which will be Melbourne. So I think Brisbane will lose out. So I believe that Queensland should be linked with high-speed rail directly with Western Australia. because with the two big mining states, and even if with the changes that are coming, we're still going to be the two big mining states. And I know a lot of people that work between both states, so they're commuting now. Let's make it a lot easier. We've got businesses in Queensland that are trying to operate in WA. If we link the two, it would benefit both economies. Both the mining states' economies would grow. It would also help open up some of our regional areas in Australia, and it would also boost tourism between the two states. And let's face it, both states have got the best beaches. Is that right? Queensland and WA.
Yeah, I've never been to WA, but from a self-defense point of view, it's also very important that we have that ability to move people very quickly east to west. Yeah, it's good to see that you're thinking on all fronts.
Yeah, I'll throw that one out there. See what comments come back. Yep.
Yeah. No, it's good to see that you're doing your best to think of as many things as possible, like how representatives would do best to do, because that's their job, right? I like to sometimes end these things on like a message that you'd have for the general public of Australia or the region that you're being elected for, and things that you'd like them to understand, and things that perhaps would reduce that enmity between the different political orientations of different kinds of people. What are your thoughts on, or what would you want people to know, so that we can all start to move better in a better direction politically with things? And do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I'd just like to see people not to be so extreme with their views. Like it seems to be a growth thing in Australia, whereby you can't accept somebody that has a different point of view to you. Like in the past, we were very left and right, we're very close to the centre, and you could have a difference of opinion, you could have a conversation, and you could agree to disagree, or you might go, you've got a point there, and they might go, oh, you've got a point there. So you could then come up with the correct decision. But the way things are going, the left are getting further to the left, the right are getting further to the right, and if you have a different point of view, people attack you. Well, we need to get back to discussing things and being a little bit more tolerant of one another, I think. And I think we'll get better outcomes.
Do you have any ideas on ways we can do that? I know it's a big question and everyone's trying to figure that out, but is there anything you've thought of, perhaps?
Well, I think you're going to have to start looking after the majority of people, and I think that sometimes this whole activism thing is probably detrimental to society. And I can see they've probably done some good things, but they've done some pretty bad things there too.
What kind of activism?
I mean, I want to see the environment preserved, and I've always been strong on that, but I don't want to see people attacked because they have a difference of opinion either. I think you've got to respect that other people will have a different opinion.
Sure. Yeah, that's cool. All right. Well, I think it's about time for us to wrap up, but do you have any way people are able to find you on the internet and check out what you're about? Website or Facebook page, or
probably Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn are all three that I've probably been using in my campaign. So there's articles up there. Probably Facebook's probably the strongest one. Feel free to pop that up there if people want to go on there and have a look. I've done some presentations which sort of show probably what I believe in, and hopefully that connects with them if it aligns with what they're happy with.
Yeah. Cool. That's great. Thanks so much for your time, David. yeah, if you guys want to help support an independent media for Queensland, check our links in the description below and share our videos. And yeah, thanks so much for your time, David. It's been a pleasure.
I might catch up with you in August. I'll be up there in August. So.
Oh, rightio. Cool. I'll be keen.
Yeah.